Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Nice to see everybody out on this long Sunday morning, huh? Aren't you all just tickled to death that winter has not quite given up yet? A bully?
The altar is very close to you, brother.
I mean every word I say. Goodness. All right, let's go ahead and go to prayer before we start Sunday school this morning. So, anybody, any words? You guys spoken request? All right, Ruby.
Remember my family and remember me. I go to Morgantown tomorrow and I'll be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. So remember me to get better results than I did in Charleston, and also for travel nurses.
Anybody else? Ronnie?
Remember me and my family. Continue to remember my mother and Robert Hanshoe. Remember Taylor in Florida. And the two babies that I requested prayer for the other day, for one of them got a heart issue and would have to have surgery. They went to Cincinnati, and doctors told me said that baby would probably pass before it was born. So remember that family. That needs some hard information to accept. But remember them in prayer.
Okay. All right. Court.
Remember Alex and Laura and Lori there in Pittsburgh, be traveling back sometime today. Always remember my family.
Mark always been the philosophy in my family. I have a special unspoken need for a great niece. It's a prayer. Remember Angie and sister. Remember Taylor.
Anyone else? Anywhere?
Mark, remember Dale Arthur. He's in the hospital. I went to school with him. His son Les works down at Kroger's in Houston. He told me his dad was back in the hospital. So remember him.
Janice, you go ahead.
Still remember Pat Robinson and Buddy and Georgia Richard. And I have a station on the slope and plus remember all the those people and our nation.
Still remember Eileen and Sue Dawson.
Anyone else?
Remember the situation over in Russia, and remember Israel in prayer.
All right. I'm sure everyone has unspoken prayer requests. Let's all stand if you would, please. Let's try to remember each other's requests. Brother Gary, do you mind leading us this morning, please?
Heavenly Father, we thank you. granted him after the 2 week fast, and God had blessed the reading of this little prayer.
Thank you, Bruce. Anybody else?
Okay, so this week in the devotion is pretty inspiring to me, but it comes out of Psalms 145, 3 verses there. It says, "The Lord upholdeth all that fall, and raiseth up all those that be bowed down. The eyes of all wait upon thee, and thou givest them their meat in due season. Thou openest thine hand and satisfiest the desire of every living thing." I just want to, I took strength in that just to know that, that God sustains us. He provides the guidance and the protection and the provision that we need, and anything that our hearts need, He provides for our souls well. I just want to thank Him this morning for that. Truly, thank God.
Thank you, John. Any others? All right, we'll go ahead and get into the lesson this morning. This is on page 36 in your booklet, if you haven't already found it. Title of it is Missed Opportunities, and we're going to be in the 34th chapter of Genesis. When I first read the title of the lesson, I thought, man, this is something we can all relate to, right? Missed opportunities. Anybody ever look back on your life, or even yesterday, and think about all the opportunities that you may have missed?
Absolutely.
I sit and I look at, opportunities to try certain activities, something you wanted to do. I always determined I didn't want to be one of these guys that woke up at 80, assuming I actually wake up at 80, and wake up and say, man, I wish I would try to do that. I wish I'd have done that in life. So, I would try to just go ahead with those. Maybe a job that you thought you should have tried to get, deals you passed up on, the girl you didn't ask out in high school, whatever the case is. There's just all kinds of opportunities. We look back, chance to do something good even. We could probably all list hundreds and hundreds of missed opportunities in our life. Well, guess what? Despite the title of our lesson, that's not what it's about this morning. I just want to throw that out there because it seemed like it's such a great build-up to a lesson. But that's not what we're talking about today. I guess there are some missed opportunities, and we'll talk about those at the very end of the lesson as we read through this. But the lesson we have this morning, to me, is really about ripples, or a ripple effect. Everybody's ever heard of the ripple effect, right? In my mind, I always think about looking at a very calm body of water, a little pond or pool of water. No wind, nothing moving the surface of the water, just peaceful, crystal clear, surface like glass. Everybody can think of that. Something that just fills you with peace, doesn't it? And calming and all this, just ideal. Now imagine that you take a stone, gravel, rock, whatever, and you drop it right dead in the middle of that pond. Describe to me what happens. Okay. Anybody else? First of all, what I thought is, number one, that entire peaceful image that you just had in your mind is now disturbed, right? It's no longer that peaceful thing that you had, that you originally thought of, that mirror-like surface of the water and all that serenity and all that. Now you've got the sound of the splash, you've got the initial little splash of water around where the rock made impact, and then you've got these ripples going out in all directions from where that rock hit, right? The surface of the water is now not so calm and peaceful. There's motion, there's something going on, and it spreads out evenly every direction.
That's also got a rock in the scripture. Jesus said it didn't mean to offend one of these little ones that believe in me. It'd be better for him that a millstone be hung around his neck and he drowned him to death at the stage.
You know what, and I've made this comparison a lot of times here, teaching Sunday school lessons, talking about sin left unchecked. I think we had a lesson, maybe it was the last quarter, and I always use this example because there was an old cartoon that I used to watch when I was a kid, and it always made me think about sin left unchecked. And I always compared it to that snowball effect, right? You got some dude at the top of a hill, makes a good snowball, starts it rolling down the hill, right? So what happens to it? It gains steam and starts building, picking up more snow, and then it's picking up stuff and blowing over trees and cars and houses, and before you know it, it's this big till it finally hits something that it can't move and just smashes. I've always kind of used that as a comparison for how sin is. But really, that line of thought, although I think it's a good illustration, has a flaw. That's assuming that the effect of sin is linear, right? And that's not the case. It would be easy to think for us that if I commit this one sin, or if one sin is committed by someone, the impact from that is just this nice straight line, and it can be measured and still kind of controlled a little bit, right? Because it's not completely out of my control. But really, if you think about it, sin, the impacts of sin are more like that stone dropped in the water, aren't they? The effects of sin don't travel in a straight line. That'd be great, wouldn't it? I say great, it's still sin. But the reality is the impacts of sin, how it affects other things, kind of go out in all directions. We don't know what's going to be impacted. We don't know who's going to be impacted. But there will be an impact, and it's going to go out in all directions. Sin is not one of these things that we can control. We like to think we can control it. If I just do this one little thing, it's going to be all right. I got my reins on that. That's okay. That's sort of something that I can handle. But that's not really the reality. The stone in the pond isn't. So a lot of things happen. Same thing with sin. Where's your serenity when sin is committed? You still have that nice peaceful feeling inside? No. Turmoil. The surface is ripply. Everything happens. The repercussions just go out in every direction. Any which way that you can think about. It's kind of like and I know we talked about this a few weeks ago also. It's kind of like when you tell a lie. You know, when I was growing up, my mom always used to tell me, don't get in the habit of lying. When you tell a lie, and I think I gave you guys an example of me not coming home from work one night, but it was, when you tell a lie, then in order to, if you're going to keep trying to perpetuate that, you got to tell another lie, and you got to tell another lie, and you got to tell another lie. And again, the repercussions from that, the impact, this goes out in all kinds of directions. So once you start that, do you really have any control over it? No. It's out of your control at that point. It's better not to do it. Or just, at that first lie, wait, sorry, that was not true, and stop it right there. But once you start, left unchecked, it spreads out in every single direction, right? Sin is the same thing. Sin is rarely a single event. And you guys can look back on your own lives and think about this. It would be so easy if we could just sit and think, well, if I did that one thing, if I do this, that's it. I can stop right there. And that's all it's going to do. It was one bad little hiccup, whatever you want to call it, that I just did, and it's okay from there because it doesn't really impact anything else and it doesn't go any further. But that's not the reality, because what happens is, because I've justified that one action, what happens next? Exactly. It's just like the whole thing with the lie. You're going to, well, if I did that, that's okay. I got real chummy with that. That's all right. Now I can do this. Now I can do that. And so just like that pond, the stone in the middle of the pond, that ripple effect just goes every which direction, right? And it spreads and it spreads and it spreads. So from what we've studied so far about Jacob, and we're still studying about Jacob this morning, doesn't it seem like Jacob's nature is just like that? It just keeps leading to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, everything about his life. Now, we look back on Scripture, and Jacob is sort of considered, one of the patriarchs. but he wasn't necessarily a great guy, was he? He had a lot of flaws. He had a lot of things going on in his life that we could sort of look back and, I'm not going to blame, but look at his mother and the little deceit that she had, that she led her son to, and now son and his deceit, and all of the different things that goes on with that. And you can see a real ripple effect of sin and turmoil, and the water's just muddied by what goes on when you decide that it's okay to do this one wrong or to commit one wrong. And it's just like that whole ripple effect. And we can see that so clearly in the history of Jacob and his family and what all goes on with them, and how the repercussions of sin seem like they just keep going back out and bouncing back and coming back. And it seems like his whole life is just affected by all this turmoil. All right, so let's read the lesson, our text this morning, and then we'll talk about what's going on in this particular account, and we'll talk about it. After we get done reading and we start talking about the verses, if you guys have something to add to the lesson, please don't be bashful this morning. I appreciate everybody's comments, and it breaks up the monotony of you guys having to sit and listen to me for the next 30 or 40 minutes. All right, again, this is taken from Genesis 34. I'm going to read the first verse. This goes verse 1 through 18, and I'll read the first verse and you guys read after me. It says, "And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land.
And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, and lay with her, and defiled her.
And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel.
And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife.
And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field. And Jacob held his peace until they were come.
And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him.
And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in laying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done.
And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife.
And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you.
And you shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein.
And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give.
Ask me never so much dowry, and give, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife.
And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, Because he had defiled Dinah their sister.
And they said unto them, We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were reproach unto us.
But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised.
Then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people.
But if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone.
And their words pleased Hamor, and Shechem Hamor's son.
Amen. All right.
I remember the rest of that, a little bit of the rest of that. They all men got, all out got circumcised, and the army of Israel went in when they was still somewhere, and they beat them in battle.
Right. That's right. You know, when you look at this whole tale, this whole account is about a whole bunch of messed up people. I mean, every one of them. Jacob, his sons, the only one I think that maybe had any sense through all of this was probably Dinah. She just made a judgment error in where she went. But everybody else seemed to think, what are all these people thinking? And you can't help but think that this is part of that whole ripple effect of sin. Once you decide to do wrong, once you've decided that this is okay, then so many things are okay. You notice this? If you take a look at this first verse, we'll take a look here. So, in talking about Dinah, the daughter of Leah, was she bare to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. So, Dinah seems to be the only innocent party in this entire account here. Remember, Jacob, the deceiver, was deceived into taking Leah as his first wife. He wanted Rachel to be his wife, and he worked 7 years for her father. This is what I will give you if you will give me your daughter in marriage. 7 years of labor. Oh, okay, and he slipped in the other daughter. We can't really do that because we have to give the oldest daughter first. So anyway, we have Leah, and Leah bare him, Jacob, sons. I don't know the exact number, but it was 6 sons. And then all at the end, 1 daughter. All right? So you can imagine she's probably a little spoiled. You know, she's got all these brothers and dad, and this is the 1 daughter. Dads look a little different for their little girls than they do, a bunch of old hairy-legged boys. So, you know, it's just kind of different. So one day she decides to go out and see and socialize with the other females in the land that they were living in. Seems like normal activity. You can't fault her for anything she's done. She's just wanting to she's surrounded by all this testosterone back at home. She wants to hang out with some other females and be in the company of other women. Understandable, right? Something bad happens to her. If we look at the next 2 verses, verse 2 and 3, it says, and when Shechem, if I'm saying that correctly, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, he lay with her, and he defiled her. And then it goes on to say, and his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. Anybody see some character flaws with this guy?
Evil.
Sort of put the cart before the horse just a little bit, did he not? So on her outing, she is seen by the prince of the land, Shechem, the son of Hamor, however you say his name, and they are the Hivites. So Jacob and his people are living, you know, Canaan, around the Canaanites, and this is another one of those little groups of people, the Hivites in that area. How close were Jacob and his people supposed to be with those other folks in the country? What kind of relations were they to have?
Separate from them.
You're supposed to, kind of arm's length sort of thing. No intermarriages, nothing like that. You know, I'm sure they had business dealings and this and that, but their relations were supposed to be sort of, you know, they do their thing, we do our thing. We're not going to intermingle with them. So here's this guy, the Hivite, who, Mr. Shechem here, apparently used to having whatever he wanted in life. Whatever he saw, whatever he desired, he's used to just having. So he set his sights on poor Dinah. She's just out trying to socialize. He sees her. Again, putting the cart way before the horse, he took her. It says he lay with her, and he defiled her. What word do we use for that? He raped her. Pure and simple. All right? She was not a consenting party to this. They were not married. Not any relations here. He saw something he wanted, and he went after it. And he raped her. It's pure and simple. Anybody see a ripple effect from this one? That one, when he set his eyes and purposed what he was going to do, how broad did this ripple effect go? It affected so many things. And like Bruce has already pointed out, it even went to the point of impacting every male of the Hivites in a very disastrous way. So again, that one little ripple, thinking, well, I can do this one little thing, that'll be okay, because I'm the prince after all, and I can have whatever I want, just totally blows up, right? No peace, no serenity, whatever. So anyway, even outside of the sexual assault, Jacob and his people were forbidden from having intimate relations with these people. Remember, Jacob's father did not take a wife from these people. Jacob did not take a wife from these people. They were to wed from within their own people and take wives of their own people. No intermixing here. That's what God had ordered them, had told them to do, and that's what they were supposed to do. Anything less than that was defiling everybody. So, this terrible assault happens. And then we go on in verse 3, and this is what is really mind-blowing about this guy. Oh, but I love her. So, again, he must have been just terribly confused. So after the rape, he decides he's in love with her, and now just talk very kindly to her. He's wooing her. He's courting her after he's sexually assaulted her. Now, I can't speak for everybody in this room, but I can't imagine any female in this room being real friendly back to a guy who had just assaulted her like this. Oh, okay, yeah, let's get married. That'll be great. We already got that part out. We got that part out of the way, right? Let's go ahead. So bizarre. So in a truly romantic gesture, he's apparently a romantic guy. He tells his father, "Go get this woman for me for a wife." Used to having anything he wanted. We talked today about this age of entitlement. It didn't start today. Look at this guy. Well, I've already had this woman. I may as well have her for a wife. Dad, get her for me.
That's a little cover up too, though.
Yeah, do you feel like he was trying to rectify the sin?
That's right. That's
Felt
right.
like maybe there was a shotgun wedding coming anyway or something.
More of the ripple effect. We'll talk about shotgun here in a minute. So more of the ripple effect. Think about this. So this sin that he's perpetuated on this woman, now he's getting dad involved. There are no little sins. There are no sins that we can predict what all or who all they're going to impact, right? This is just a pure example of that. This whole story is just so bizarre. So he wants daddy to go, "Hey, Dad, get that girl for me. I want to make her my wife." Such a romantic guy. So anyway, in verses, just verse 5 here. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. What is wrong with Jacob? All right, so Jacob hears of this assault, and he did exactly what every other dad would do and grab the shotgun, right? No, I'm going to hold my peace till my boys get back. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking around and I know some dads of girls in this room. And I'm pretty sure we'd all be on the shotgun brigade. That would be our initial reaction, would it not? If we heard that something like this happened to our daughter, our minds are going to be filled with rage. We're going to be ready to take care of little Bubba over here. Prince or not, we're going to take care of business. Chips can fall where they may after that. That's how we're going to react. That's our human nature to do that. That's your little girl, right? You're going to protect her. You're going to watch out for her. And I'm sure the mothers are the same way. But I know how dads are. We don't get to see what mom's reaction is. We're only seeing Jacob. So, old Jacob, his sons are out in the field with the cattle. He's, I'm going to wait till they get back. We'll figure something out then. I'm going to wait till my boys get back. Why do you think that was? What do you think is going on? And this is an opinion. There's no right or wrong answer. What do you think is going on in Jacob's head here? That he's going to wait till his sons get back?
Maybe I'm afraid,
Go ahead, Ruby.
fear.
Okay.
But he was, gotta remember, he was the deceiver.
That's right.
He might have been holding it back and gonna give the boys a plan something special.
Yeah.
But the commentary says too that, he always favored Rachel and her children more than he did Leah, because Rachel was the one he wanted to start with.
Anybody else have an opinion?
I don't know, sometimes I want to deal with it, go on the spiritual side of things and say, well, maybe he felt that sin begat sin, and maybe he was counting to 10.
It could be, yeah.
It's not close, Rachel was that because she was lied for in way, and for many years Rachel couldn't have a child, and God raised over her one that.
Yeah. It was funny, and like Ruby's already pointed out, that the commentaries pointed out a fact here that you would really not think. This is probably, there's a whole lot of speculation just around this particular, Jacob's response to this. Was he just a bad leader of his people? Was he just a sorry dad? Was he a coward? Was he afraid to make the king and the prince mad at him because that's going to impact how everybody lives in the land, right? Or he just didn't care. We don't know. But there's a, like Ruby pointed out, there's just a lot of speculation about why his reaction was like it was. Because I know what mine would be, and I'm kind of looking around the room, and I think there's probably a few dads in here that would probably respond similar to me, initially anyway. So, anyway, we don't know what the problem is, but Jacob's made the executive decision that he's going to wait till his sons come back from the field. Then we'll see what happens, right? All right, so I'm going to take the next three verses together, 6, 7, and 8. It says, and Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. The men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in laying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give him to wife. You know, the sons seem to have a more natural reaction to this. But if you look at that, they're not so upset that he defiled their sister as you're not supposed to lay with the Israelite women. That was more their issue with the whole thing. So anyway, several things happen in these three verses all at the same time. So the king goes out to meet with Jacob, not to see how to right a wrong, right? But to satisfy his entitled son. Talk about the lousy dad, who now wants this girl to be his wife. So he wasn't going to beg for Jacob's forgiveness or plead the case. Don't hold this against my people. My son did wrong, which is, of course, I thumped my own son's hind end first before we ever got to this point. But he doesn't go to do any of that. He goes to see how we can work this out. I really want your daughter. And not this all happened, but what are we going to do here? So while he's going with him to plead his case, Jacob's sons come back from the field, and they hear about this deed. They were not happy guys. And again, they didn't seem as concerned about the crime as they were about a foreigner laying with an Israelite woman. It wasn't as much about the what happened as about the who it was. So at some point you'd have to say, well, would they have been okay with it if it had been another Israelite man that had defiled their sister? We don't know. But again, you look at this, how, and I won't say, I'm not by any means saying that the sexual assault was a simple sin or a little sin or whatever. But this is the ripple effect of all of this. And you can really trace this back to Jacob and his mother, the deceivers, and how a life of being very comfortable with being sinful leads to one thing right after another, after another, after another. Now, instead of the snowball effect that I always used to describe, it's this huge ripple. I mean, it's going everywhere. It's affecting people around them, their own families, the Hivites and the Canaanites. Everybody around them is impacted by the stone dropped in the water, right? And it just goes out and out and out. So, I am convinced that from Jacob's mother all the way down to his kids, they're all just one fry short of a Happy Meal. Are they not? Every single one of them. It's like, what are these people thinking? How is any of this right? So King Hamor met with them to ask for Dinah for a wife for his son. That's how those three verses kind of end up. And that's what we see there. So in verses 9 and 10, anybody have any comments before we keep going? All right. In verses 9 and 10, it says, and make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. Boy, what a business deal this has turned out to be, huh? So instead of trying to atone for his son's transgression against Jacob and his family, the king has a business proposition to make. We can make this right if we just let's just make this back and forth. Let's just trade back and forth here. We're gonna marry your daughters, you marry our daughters, and we're all gonna live happily ever after. We're gonna prosper and multiply together. This is great, isn't it? Just one big happy family, living together. What about the sexual assault? Nobody's even, I mean, this is kind of mind-blowing that everybody's okay with this so far. Does anybody see any madness in any of this reaction to all of this?
Not in the arrangement.
Good.
Mark, I was thinking, in this time period, in that culture, maybe the women were considered more of a possession than a person. You kind of get that from this scripture here, that's kind of the way I see it as being.
I get that. I do get that. It was a different culture. Things were a little different. And women are still not treated real highly in a lot of Middle Eastern civilizations. It's still kind of different. But you know, you think about this, any peace and tranquility on this little pond, it is gone. You know, this whole image is just shattered. There's nothing about this that you can look at and say, this is normal reactions for people. It's all this, how can I come out ahead on this? How can we do this and I still get what I want and make this work out? It's not what we would think of as doing the right thing. None of it. It's just this huge mess on the surface of the pond. So he's got this big business deal. He tries to work out, let's do this, and we're all going to just intermarry, and we're going to be fruitful. We'll share the land. We're going to multiply. We're all going to come out ahead. You're going to own things. We're going to buy and sell and trade, and everybody's going to come out ahead. All because poor Dinah was assaulted. Because the prince saw something that he wanted, and he took it, whether he had permission to do so or not. So in verses 11 and 12, he says, "And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. But give me the damsel to wife." He still wants that girl. He wants that girl. So anyway, Shechem, the violator here, is apparently also at this meeting with Jacob, and the brothers, and his dad, the king. And they're all there and talking about the things. He starts talking about, look at all the things that I can provide. You name your price, but let me have a girl. Just tell me what you want, whatever you want. You say to me whatever it is you want. I'll give it to you, but I want her to wed. Jacob's sons, sitting in this meeting, the guys who were so wroth with what was going on, seem to be a little off here too. I can't figure out why at the very beginning of this meeting, and Shechem shows up, they haven't started a thumping brigade all over this dude's head. I mean, seriously, this is just a natural reaction to me. I know vengeance is supposed to be the Lord's, but our human reaction to something like this is very real. Let's just say it that way, all right? So anyway, they're all sitting there in this crazy meeting and figuring out how everybody's going to come out ahead. Again, everybody but Dinah. And like John has pointed out, women were not treated with the same type of equality that we have today. That's just not how it was back then. All right, in verses 13 through 16, he says, "And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, deceitfully." Oh, there's that deceit again, right? Runs in Jacob's family. Started from mom, what was her name, Rebecca, to Jacob, to now the sons, the grandkids. Deceitfully, and said, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister, and they said unto them, We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this we consent unto you, if you will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then will we give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. Now, they made this proposition, this counteroffer back, but again, remember, it started out deceitfully, all right? They have an ulterior motive to their plan, what they tell them. So you can tell here that the roots of deceit run very deep in this family. It's almost like it's passed along genetically, or maybe they're just brainwashed. It's okay to trick people. It's okay to be less than honest. What a terrible legacy to leave to your offspring, that it's okay to be deceitful. It's okay to be a liar. What a terrible, terrible thing to do. And that's exactly what Rebecca, I believe, started. Now, we don't know where she got her deceit. Maybe it was from her father. But we do know that Rebecca to Jacob to on down the line now, all of his sons, deceit is pretty well widely accepted, right? So the brothers tell Shechem, no, we can't do that. It's not right. It's not right. What about this has been so far, right? You defiled her, and you're uncircumcised. You've caused a reproach in us. So they, now again, deceitfully, we know that they're doing this deceitfully, tell Shechem that we have a problem with this because you defiled our sister and you're uncircumcised. That's the bad part about this. The rape is not necessarily the issue, it's the circumcision is the issue. And Shechem and his dad, apparently the brothers were good at deceit, like Jacob and his mother before him were good at deceit. These guys ate it up, right? Oh, okay, that's all we gotta do. So they say to him, I tell you what, if every one of your males agrees to be circumcised, then we'll intermarry, we'll exchange daughters and marry and live happily ever after, and we'll live with your people and everybody will get along great. I don't know how they accepted that story, but anyway, they did. So they listened to it. And if we go on to the next two verses in 17 and 18, and we'll get this wrapped up, he says, but if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and we'll be gone. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. All of them circumcised. They were going to take our sister, Jacob, take my daughter, and we'll be gone. We're going to leave. Circumcision seemed to be a very small price to pay for the prince who wanted the girl and dad who wanted to keep his little boy happy, right? Oh, yeah, okay, that sounds great. We can do that. And that's where our text ends. Now, Bruce has already pointed out, if you read the rest of this story, it's not included in our lesson. I read ahead to make sure it wasn't included in one of Tim's lessons, either next week's an Easter lesson, I guess. But after that, I want to make sure it wasn't included. They did pay a terrible price for this. Finally, there was some, we'll call it some cowboy justice out of all this. So all of the men bought this story, and they went out and they got circumcised. Now, I don't know what kind of medical procedures they had back in those days, but they were in a little pain after this. And like Bruce said, then Jacob and all the men of the Israelites, while the other guys, Gary, that was bad. All the men are kind of recovering from their procedure in a weakened state, and they were all slaughtered by Jacob's people. All of the men were killed. So there was some payback to all this, and I'm not saying payback is right or wrong. What my point is look how one little city, if you take it all the way back to Rebecca, okay, because that's where we see this kind of start, this whole deceit ripple start. Do you see how this is spread like a cancer? This is what sin does. And you think, what a crazy story that we've just seen. How all this happened, how all this could even be considered normal by anybody. But look at us, all started with that little pebble. What your dad won't know. We'll trick him. We'll trick him into thinking you're your brother and this and that. One little thing like that can impact we don't know who it's going to impact. It didn't just impact Jacob. It impacted Jacob's sons. It impacted Leah. It impacted Dinah. It impacted Hamor and Shechem and everybody else. Sin, the impacts from it go out and out and out. And unchecked, we don't know what kind of impact. We can't even predict what kind of impact it might have. I'm trying to figure out, get caught in my notes. So, just like today, it's the same thing. When we say, you know what, I can do this one little thing, I can do that, it's gonna be okay. I can tell this little fib here, or get mixed up in this or that. It's not gonna go any farther. It's not gonna be any worse than that. God will be okay with that. Nobody has to know about that. All of these little things. It doesn't work like that, does it? Sin left unchecked is going to take you places you never thought you were going to go, places you never thought you could go to, and it's going to continue that way. Now, get back to the title of our lesson this morning. There were indeed some missed opportunities with these people throughout this account, were there not? There were opportunities to do some very bad things, like my reaction would have been. Still not good. You know, I've talked about a natural reaction, but the things that I'm joking about saying, why didn't we get the shotgun, or why aren't the brothers thumping on this guy's head? That's not right either. That's still sin. But they also passed up a lot of opportunities to do good all throughout this, did they not? And it started with Shechem. He didn't have to, you know, I saw something I wanted to take it. And things just kind of get snowballed from there. So you can see, if you look at this and the reactions of people, I say everyday people, but I don't think they were. Things can really get out of hand in a very short amount of time when we let sin go unchecked. All right, I appreciate it, everybody. I am done.